Hi, I'm Laura of the Laura Flanders Show, and this is the season of giving thanks. While we have a lot to be thankful for, we haven't yet actually, in a formal sense, met our goal of raising $25,000 for another field report by the end of the year. We're more than halfway there, and to help us over the finish line, we have a special incentive for you. Our friends and colleagues at The Nation magazine will give a year's subscription, print and digital, of this historic, progressive magazine to the next 25 people who donate to the Laura Flanders Show. You probably know already that I'm a contributing writer for The Nation, and I'm excited to be able to offer you this gift. We don't take government or corporate funding. You hear no advertising here. We are independent media, so-called. But that doesn't mean that what we do is free. We depend on you. Go to the lauraflandersshow.org/donate and make a one-time donation, or better yet, make it monthly support for this forward-thinking program. And if you've already contributed this year, consider making an additional donation or upping your monthly gift. Again, that's lauraflanders.org/donate. We thank you and we depend on you. From the Laura Flanders Show, happy holidays. And now, on with the week's program. How do we nurture the soil, feed our bodies, and heal hurt people and places in these stressed out times? Today, the Laura Flanders Show is coming from central Louisiana, where black farmers are leading an experiment in rice growing, regeneration, and repair. What does the work of healing look like? Well, as Konda Mason, who heads up the project, puts it, transformation happens at the intersection of land, race, money, and spirit. It's about Jubilee Justice, and it's a collaborative undertaking happening on fertile soil. Konda Mason, a social entrepreneur, mindfulness teacher, and justice advocate, is the founder and president of Jubilee Justice. Driven to address rural racism and environmental decay, Konda has focused her work here in the South, in the very place where ancestral harm was caused.
We are right now sitting in Alexandria, Louisiana, on a former plantation that is now the largest organic farm in the state. It's called Inglewood. And Inglewood is in central Louisiana. And my project, the Jubilee Justice Project, is based here. And it's based here from the invitation of Elizabeth Keller, who has become my dearest sister friend. She knew that this project was happening. We were talking about the project, and I said, I need land. She said, well, I got a lot of that. She has this 3,600 acres she has here. And so she invited Jubilee Justice to set ourselves here and make this home, and it's home.
Miles Gaines is farm manager at the Jubilee Justice Black Farmers Rice Project near Alexandria, Louisiana.
We're on an experimental farm here, working with a cohort of farmers throughout the South, so Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, and the Carolinas, to grow rice together organically and regeneratively as best as we can.
The ancestral lands of the Natchez and Avoyelles people, this part of central Louisiana in the Red River Valley produced untold wealth for white America under slavery. That wealth fueled the growth of the nation and created the model for industrial agriculture as we know it today. But the wealth never accrued to the people who cleared and cultivated this soil. The Jubilee Justice Black Farmers Rice Project aims to repair some of these historical wrongs by working with black farmers to grow high-value crops in new ways.
There's so many relics throughout this land, old homes, shacks. There's a cemetery across the bayou. So, you know, when I'm like out here, like, and I'm sweating and it's hot, or even when I'm not, when I have the luxury to, you know, be on the computer and do something, because I have the choice to do that, I'm like constantly thinking of those folks, the black land stewards who are here before me. I feel like I'm still getting acquainted with like the black agrarian ecosystem, particularly in the South. I know there are a lot of us out there, but I also know, like with black farmers in general, the average age of farmers, I believe, is like 60 plus. So there's like this thing of like almost like a dying breed, not just black farmers, but farmers in general, but particularly black farmers. And then there's so much black land loss, and, you know, even in my family and others, there's not necessarily wants to come tend the land, because, you know, there's the history of slavery, the history of sharecropping.
Shirley Sherrod is a longtime organizer and advocate for black farmers who has worked since the 1960s to establish New Communities, Inc., the country's first community land trust in southwest Georgia. She's working with the Jubilee Justice project.
This land and the land we have over in Georgia, it had a bad beginning, but we try to take that bad beginning and turn that into what we need for today. Our folks suffered, and they suffered so that life could be better for us. So we try to take that and help make that better happen for our people.
Under the Obama administration, Sherrod was appointed the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Georgia Director of Rural Development, and then forced to resign after a right-wing smear campaign. She knows the challenges black farmers face inside and out.
We tried to build our own community in Georgia, New Communities. We created the first community land trust. They shot at buildings. They worked against us politically. They did everything they could to take the land away from us, and they were eventually successful. You know, so to say, you know, they love to say black people are lazy, you know, and well, you've heard how we've been described, but we are constantly having to work against a system that has been designed to keep us down, even today.
What's made it so hard for African American farmers especially to thrive and to keep their land?
People don't understand when you can't get the loans that the government has, you know, Farmers Home Administration was supposed to be the lender of last resort. You were supposed to be able to go there and qualify for a loan, but then you had people working in those offices who would work with some other white person because they want your land, and then they would do things like string it out so that you couldn't get the money when you needed it, not give what the plan called for in terms of a loan, and all of this was designed to get you to the point where you were in trouble financially, and then they could move on into foreclose. That we've lost so much land that way.
Black farmers have lost millions of acres of land in the last 100 years in the U.S., much of it because of lack of capital, discrimination by loan agencies, decades of white violence, and ongoing harassment.
That's why once I met Konda and learned what she was doing, it's like, hey, I need to be a part of this. We need to be a part of this. We working together, putting this network of farmers together from state to state, it's important. Showing our people what's possible when we work together. And then having some others who, with knowledge, who are willing to be a part of helping to right some of the wrongs of the past.
Konda Mason of Jubilee Justice.
In the 1920s, we went from 20 million acres to right now down to 2. And there's a reason for that. Right? It's systemic, it's intentional, and what we want to do is to be able to stop that by creating a crop, because that's what they do, they grow food, is to introduce a crop that has high value, that is also good for the environment, that they can actually take that same acreage and make a lot more money from. And so that's what Jubilee Justice is doing. So if they can get that economic base strong, then they don't have to lose their land. What I want to do here in Louisiana, and particularly for young black people and for black people in general, there has been no investment. No investment. Not only that, there's been disinvestment in black communities.
A rice mill owned and operated cooperatively by the black farmers in Jubilee Justice's regional network could make a difference. Again, Konda Mason of Jubilee Justice. Why is the ownership of that mill so important to this project?
We, as black farmers particularly, we rarely own the land. We're often leasing. We absolutely own no manufacturing, and we are completely dependent upon the third party to say yes to my crop. And if you grow your crop and they say no, you've just lost an entire season. And there can go your entire business, right? We have to own the means of production. And what that mill represents is that it will be run by a cooperative of black farmers, cutting out the middle person from here out, bringing their own rice. It's a vertical integration of their crop, from growing it to milling it to distributing it and making their own decisions. And so that piece of that cut is a huge part that now goes into their pockets.
On May 12th, community gathered to celebrate the grand opening of the Black Farmers Rice Mill at Jubilee Justice Specialty Foods. Bernard Wynn, born and raised in Alexandria, heads up the operations. Who's on your mind right now as we begin this conversation, Bernard?
I think about my family when I start this conversation. My grandfather, who was a great man, he's a Mason, he's from Alexandria as well, and he's the one that got me involved in learning about growing food for yourself, being self-sustainable in that aspect, and in many other ways, and teaching us how to work hard, focus on what you want, and get the job done.
Tell us a little bit about how the Alexandria of your grandfather compares to the one that you grew up in.
I've heard the stories from him and my father as well when he was a child of the hatred that they did experience, unfortunately. You know, they would be walking home from school, people would pass by throwing bottles at them saying, get out the road. You know, things like that. But my grandfather always said you don't have to let those people bring you down to their level. You know, you can try to ignore it the best you can, of course, defend yourself, but do not let them bring you to their level.
Yesterday was a huge day in this space.
It was amazing for me to see all of y'all and everybody here experience what I've experienced my first few weeks of milling this rice, and seeing one product turn into something that's edible. The most intriguing thing about Jubilee Justice to me is this mill, and the fact that we as a cohort have the deeds to this building. It's going to be ours. This building here is a stronghold for me in my heart, and I want to see it just expand and become the most successful rice mill in the South or in the country, you know.
This is the Laura Flanders Show. I'm Laura. Today we're coming to you from Alexandria in central Louisiana with an exclusive report on the Jubilee Justice Black Farmers Rice Project. They recently celebrated a milestone, the grand opening of the Black Farmers Rice and Grain Mill at Jubilee Justice Specialty Foods. We were there and it was quite the event. There we met Bernard Wynn, the mill's operations specialist and manager. I also met some of the key collaborators, including Amaka Agbo, CEO of the Katali Foundation and managing director of their Restorative Economies Fund, which was an early supporter of the rice mill. And you'll hear from Carol Levine and Ken Lee, co-founders of Lotus Foods, a specialty food company based in California, which has been introducing SRI-produced rice from around the world to markets in this country and wants to do the same in the U.S. for farmers here, too. You can watch this special report, see the rice and the farm in action at our website, or catch the show on over 300 public television stations around the country, as well as on community radio and as a podcast. Go to lauraflanders.org for more information, and while you're there, sign up to receive our weekly newsletter. It includes information on all our bonus content, where we're going in the country, and our uncut full interviews and commentaries. Our special report, Jubilee Justice, Regenerative Farming, Tackling Racism with Rice, continues in just a minute. But first, here's Freedom and Progress by Nicole Conti, featuring Zara McFarlane from his full-length album Umoja, released on Far Out Recordings.
My name's Nwamaka Agbo. I am the CEO of the Katali Foundation. I'm also the managing director of our Restorative Economies Fund.
Kitali was an early supporter of the Jubilee Justice Black Farmers Rice Project, along with a fund called Pot Liquor Capital. Kitali made a very early loan to the Jubilee Justice Project here. Why? Why did you think it was a good bet?
When Konda started to talk about the story of this land, of the people of this place, and what the farmers needed, it felt like a really great opportunity to think about how do we help to redistribute some of our resources to support those farmers in need, and how do we do it in a way that helps them to shift out of a model, an economic model that has been harmful and extractive, and towards something that is restorative, regenerative, and that centers their expertise and their experience as farmers of color on the land in the South. Restorative economics calls on us to first acknowledge the hurt and structural harm caused by economic systems of extraction, exploitation. It then requires us to engage in a conversation about repair. What does repair actually look like? And yes, some of that is financial, but a lot of it is relational. Can we come to be in relationship with one another, see the dignity in each other, and then treat each other accordingly? And then moving forward with reconciliation and restitution, recognizing that we need to commit ourselves to not recreating the hurt and harms that got us here. And so in order to do that, we have to be in an intentional practice going forward. We have to commit ourselves to new economic models that don't take us back into capitalism, but help to launch us forward into something that's rooted in shared prosperity. And so this project is looking at not just Jubilee Justice as the one rice mill, but is connected to an ecosystem of farmers, of other business owners, of funds, of banks.
It's not just the farmers that Jubilee Justice seeks to restore, it's also the land and consumers too. The water from flooded paddy fields emits enormous amounts of methane gas, contributing to climate change. But rice doesn't have to be grown this way. The farmers involved in the Jubilee Justice Project are experimenting with a different way of cultivating rice, called the System of Rice Intensification, or SRI, that doesn't flood the rice fields. Ken Lee of Lotus Foods.
Rice is actually not an aquatic plant. It doesn't need all that water to survive. What happens is when rice is underwater like that, it creates this microbial action where it creates methane gas. And so, but also underwater, the plant is under stress. And so that's why it doesn't yield as much. And so there's other steps involved, but SRI uses younger seedlings, so it has more, they call phyllochron moments, where more of these tillers and of the plant shoot off. So there's more tillers, more panicles, and therefore more rice.
Ken Lee and Carol Levine are the co-founders of Lotus Foods, a specialty rice company based in California that's worked with smallholder farmers all around the world who are using the SRI system. Jubilee Justice is connecting Lotus Foods with farmers like Donna Isaac, who were the first to do this in the United States. And Lotus Foods is working with them to bring their high-value grain to U.S. markets and consumers. Carol Levine.
Rice learned to survive in water. It doesn't thrive in water.
Yeah.
So with the system of rice intensification, which Jubilee Justice is promoting, because we shared it with them, because it's such an incredible agroecological way to grow rice that uses less seed, less water, no agrochemicals, and farmers like yourself, Donna, can get double and triple their yields while sequestering carbon, while cutting down methane gas emissions.
Donna Isaac.
This year will be our first year of trying direct seeded rice, so that's going to be new and it's experimental, but the idea is to cut down the man-hour, labor hours of planting the rice. But we have been building soil, we have had cover crops in, we've terminated those cover crops, getting them back down to the ground. We do not till, so we are a no-till market garden, and so our goal is getting that fertility in the soil to help give us a really good, high-yielding rice crop.
What difference does this Jubilee Justice Farm project make to you?
It's unbelievable. I wouldn't be standing here today without the support of Jubilee Justice. First of all, I didn't know how to grow rice. So that was, the starting point. But them working with me, providing the technical support, providing the assistance, opening up their network to me, opening up markets, opening up funding through pot liquor capital so that we can actually mechanize and actually think about scaling production. It means everything.
Farming is hard physical labor, even with modern technology and the best will in the world. And growing specialty rice in a restorative way isn't easy. Again, farm manager Miles Gaines.
In the South, we have a very interesting weed situation here, given our climate, and weeds just like love, plants just like love to thrive here. So I'm thinking like, how can we balance, all of the farming principles that we want to hold on to? How can we build soil health? How can we have a productive mill? How can we create something that's also doing all these things that's also sustainable and economically viable for ourselves and our farmers? Yeah, that's the mission. And
It's a lot.
yeah, it is a lot. But when you're doing it with folks who are at least committed to experiment and are committed to some of the things I just listed off, that's what kind of like keeps us going.
Veteran activist Shirley Sherrod has confidence. With Konda Mason, she co-directs the new community's Jubilee Justice and Liberated Capital Food and Land Justice Fund, which provides grants to black farmers across the Southeast who are working toward food justice. Could the future be different from the history Sherrod's known? You're saying it's different today? You feel like this place has a better chance?
I think it has a better chance because of the knowledge and the fact that there are people with information, with some contacts. Now, you still can't let your guard down. You gotta be on guard at all times for something you really were not looking for, but it surfaced. But because of so many people with so much knowledge and willing to help, whether they're white or black, I think it has a better chance of being able to make it.
The spirits at the heart of the Jubilee Justice Project are Konda Mason's and Elizabeth Keller's. Keller's family bought this land in the 1920s when the former cotton plantation was going cheap. She's worked to heal it ever since.
She was looking for a place to grow rice, and I was looking for healing on our land and our history. And here we are today, and I want to celebrate that and honor you and all of us here.
Again, Konda Mason of Jubilee Justice.
How to heal what happened here with the people, she had no clue until I came into her life. And this project, Jubilee Justice, for her to have it based here, it is heaven sent to her. It is a way of supporting not only Jubilee Justice, but Jubilee Justice supports all these other farmers. And so it's a way of her, she feels, being able to do what she can to support what change needs to take place. And so us coming together representing our ancestors and all that horrible history that has taken place and being able to come together in a whole new way. In a whole new way. My friend Paul Hawken, he says, and I agree with him, that regeneration is putting life at the center of every decision you make. If you put life at the center of that decision, then you're going to be working in a regenerative manner. You're going to be regenerating life.
Miles Gaines, farm manager at Jubilee Justice.
I think there are a lot of like intentional pieces that we could learn from and could help, sustain us in some very necessary ways, and whether how we engage with one another, how we engage with the land. And this is still something I'm still learning what all this means, but I think there are gems in our journey so far that could be of use, could be seeds for, whatever obstacles we come against in the future.
Whatever beauty we create.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there we go.
Donna Isaac.
My goal is to not just grow organically and to be regenerative and to put the resources back into the soil, but to do it in a way that's affordable so that everybody has access, because everybody has a right to good, nutritious food.
Ken Lee of Lotus Foods.
We can have these conversations and we can grow food better on a small scale, but if we can get assistance from policy to bring in the big change that we all need, because if we want a different result, we need to do things differently.
Cara Levine.
But as we're doing that, people like Konda and Jubilee Justice actually makes up the difference in creating an opportunity for the Black farmers to have a livelihood, and a livelihood that is vertically integrated, that doesn't exist today, is pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
So, land, race, money, spirit, it doesn't get better than that.
I couldn't agree more.
I think we all do. I think we should let the farmers do their business, their work. They're doing very important work back there, and I want to thank you all. Really, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
for
been
your
a
work.
pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Operations Manager Bernard Wynn.
I tell people that if it could happen here in Alexandria with all of the history, the negative history that we know, it can happen anywhere.
What do you think the story will be that the future tells of what you're up to here? I saw your children,
Yes.
your grandchildren. What do you think they will say about what happened here today, what you all were part of?
Hopefully by then it'll be one of the biggest rice name brands in the country, and they'll be like, that's my dad started that rice mill. The first grain of rice that they produced, my dad was involved in doing that. So that's one of my visions and my dreams, and that's one of my main motivations in doing the things that I do. It's my children, grandchildren legacy that I leave behind. The same way I look at my grandparents and what they left behind, I want to be able to do the same thing. So hopefully they look back and say, job well done, Papa.
Absolutely.
Right.
This land has seen the rise and fall of complex indigenous civilization. Successive waves of colonizers have come and gone. It's witnessed the brutal exploitation of Black people and good earth and water to produce generations of white wealth and the kind of uncomfortable, unequal global economy we have today. Could the next chapter of this land's story be different? It's not enough, as Konda Mason puts it, to stop pouring on poison. We must do the work of repair. Could wealth be produced more healthily, spread more widely, rooted more deeply? Jubilee Justice is showing that it could be possible, but only if we have the spirit and only if we have the time. For more information on our special report, check out our show notes posted at patreon.com/The LF Show. That's also where you'll find an invitation to watch the premiere of each week's show on our YouTube channel and chat live in real time with me, Sundays at 11:30 Eastern. The crew and I love to hear from you and see you there in the chat, so take a moment in your Sunday morning to join us during the premiere. Meanwhile, take a moment, please, to share what you thought of today's show on social media and tag us. And if you're subscribed to this podcast via Apple Podcasts, go on, write a review. It doesn't take a minute, and it helps tip the algorithms our way. Thanks to our monthly Patreon supporters who've donated and supported the show. You and your generous contributions make it possible for our program to remain free to millions on public television, community radio, and as a podcast. Not a member yet? From each according to their ability, commit a few dollars a month at patreon.com/The LF Show, and you'll see just how far a few contributions can go. Or make a one-off donation at lauraflanders.org/donate. It all helps. Thanks for listening. This show's produced by yours truly, Laura Flanders, with Sabrina Artel, Nat Needham, David Neumann, Jeanette Hernandez, Sarah Miller, Rory O'Connor, and Jeannie Hopper. Major funders for this program include the Novo Park, Shift, Cloud Mountain, and New York Women's Foundations, the Rising Fund, the Tides Foundation, the Women's Foundation of California, Just Impact, Jane Fonda, Kim Connor and Nick Roombridge, the Wilson Family Fund, and listeners like you. Stay kind, stay curious. Until the next time, for the Laura Flanders Show, I'm Laura.